Well, I'm gonna let Mariana introduce Dr. Zoolittle, and but I'm gonna tell you why I was so excited to have Penny join us. I met Penny how long ago now? Maybe 2 years ago,
About
I
that.
think. Yeah, and we hit it off like immediately because we are both. I swear we're uh kindred spirits in especially when it comes to nature. We're so incredibly connected and we speak a very similar language and we understand each other and we could talk for not just hours but days about all of that stuff. And she's incredible because she also has that welfare side that is so important to me because I'm on a horse rescue and I grew up in a rescue and it's my vet hospital we did tons and tons of shelters and um so but I think what's going to be exciting about it is that Penny has a very different way of looking at nature. I'm going to say somewhat like me, but also different, which makes it super cool and interesting. But like I said, we're very, very similar in our thought process. But I look at stuff from my experience. She looks at things from her experience. And what's so different about what she's doing with our companion animals and our beloved pets is that she's bringing that whole experience and she's bringing it to you guys, and it's incredibly unique. Like there's nobody else doing it. She's one of a kind. Um, and it's just it just rings so true for me. So I really believe that it's so incredibly important. So, Mariana, do you want to talk? Do you want to introduce Penny, or do you think
Can
it's
I do
time to
my
introduce?
opening?
Oh yeah, you can open first. Sorry, we're going backwards a little bit now. So, all right.
Also, just I put Michelle here as the host to just to see because then she can have access to all the buttons and everything.
Okay.
That I believe she will be able to help us to put us live. But so I will start with my opening officially. So I'm officially starting this webinar now. So hello everyone. And welcome to our traditional Ask Julie Anything webinar. If you are new here, I guess you already know that my name is Mariana because Julie mentioned that before, but I am Mariana Nadai and I will be your host today. I'm so sorry for all these technical issues that we are having today, but we're trying to fix it. So today we're having a very special event because together with our co-founder and formulator Julianne Lee, we have a special guest, Penny, affectionately known as Dr. Zoolittle, as Julie already mentioned. And together, Julie and Penny will discuss ecotherapy, a nature-based approach to wellness that focuses on the healing benefits of natural environments for animals. And not only that, stay tuned because later on we will be drawing 3 subscriptions to Penny's new VIP membership club for Forever Young that she will be talking all about today. So if you have any questions for Julie and Penny about this very interesting topic, which I am also very curious to learn more about, you already know how it works. Don't be shy and ask Julie and Penny today anything about ecotherapy. But before we start, sorry, I know that I talk too much. I want to remind you all about some housekeeping rules. Please use, um, please switch your chat to everyone so everyone here can join in the conversations. Use the Q&A box below to ask your questions. The questions will be answered in order, first come, first serve, and we will do our best to cover as many questions as possible. And please keep your questions related to today's topic. To ensure everyone has a chance to participate, we'll be taking one question per person. And please try to make the question brief and short so we can have and we can answer as many people as possible. Thank you for your understanding. And the most important thing of all, this session provides a judgment-free space with only the health and happiness of our animals and the planet being our core goal. So without further ado, I want to call you, Julie and Lee, and Penny. The floor is yours. And why don't we start with you, Penny, telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you so much. There's so much
And
in
it's
all of that.
live.
Okay.
By the way,
Yes,
it's
we are
live
live.
now.
We are
I saw
live
that we're
now.
live. Okay.
So thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you tonight. I love talking about animals. I love talking about what makes them happy. And I love seeing the impact of what that does when you hear that and how you can then put that into place for the animals. So this is going to be super fun tonight. Don't hold back with your questions. I really want to dive in and serve you as best as possible. But just very, very briefly, in case you haven't ever met me before, I'm Penny. I'm Australian. I'm now based in the UK, and I decided when I was 5 years old that I was going to work as an animal welfare person. At that time, I thought that meant being a sea lion zookeeper. Because that was the experience that it was in front of me in that moment. But that was the first time that I remember seeing a person go inside the enclosure at a zoo, which is I'd always wanted to do. I was already 5 at this stage. I'd been to the zoo a number of times, and all I wanted to do was climb through those bars, open that thing, jump the whatever I had to do to get in with there and give them a cuddle, right? To hug them, to feed them, to play with them, to do that, right? And it was like, no, you don't do that at the zoo. You stay on this side. And then this event happened, and someone went in with a bucket of fish. They were feeding that sea lion. They were doing a training session. This sea lion had actually been rescued. She would have rescued from one of the beaches in Melbourne where she had plastic that was caught around her body and had been all constricted and all this. And so they set her free, but she had this scar. Anyway, so, oh my gosh, this whole story. And I was like, this is the dream. I'm going to work in animal welfare. I'm going to be friends with the animals. I'm going to set them free from their suffering. I'm going to make them happy. And it's just going to be peachy. So that was 5. And so then the pathway took me through zoology and all the things. And it was really tough because sometimes the world wants to squeeze you into a box. And I was told, I can't tell you how many times, I'll tell you what, if you love animals, you could best go be a vet. And I said, yeah, I kind of know about that, but I don't really want to be doing some of the things that vets have to do. And at the end of the day, it seems to me to be very kind of, next, rather than really, can I get to know your animal? Can I really get to dive into a relationship and unpack on the cognitive side, the emotional side, the mental side, as well as the physical? So I was like, I don't think vet's for me. And so then said, well, the only other option then is that you go and do ecology, right? Go out in the field, wear your car keys, get in the rain, watch the animals from afar, try and kind of measure some stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't have a relationship with them. They're all going to run away. Like what? And so they said, well, I guess you can be a zookeeper then. And I was like, well, that's fine because I want to be there and work with the animal, right? But what next? After I've done that, how do I do the big stuff to help them? So this was the thing. And so I did a fairly unconventional pathway to get into what I now do, which is I work as a longevity zoologist. So zoologist is just a scientist for animals. Okay. So it's really, really broad. So what do you do with that? Okay, animal welfare. Okay, so what do you do with that? Well, I'm an applied scientist. So rather than working away in like research and doing a paper and all this kind of stuff, I'm actually taking the research that other people have diligently performed and then taking it to the animals and saying, how do we make this real? How do we use this information to transform their life? So applied animal welfare scientist. So I'm a longevity zoologist specializing in the quality and quantity of time. So when we think of animal welfare, you can look at it qualitatively, right? Like how good or how bad is it? And quantitatively, how long do they have? So in our pets and our zoo animals, we're very invested in them being with us for as long as possible. Like we love having that relationship and that, right? It's a little different if you're a laboratory animal. The investment in their welfare is a totally different thing, right? So I was like, I'm not going there. Let me do the relationship side. Let me do so it's rare for someone in zoology or welfare to look at that quantitative piece. We're usually going, okay, they're a little bit under par. Can we lift them up, right? The qualitative stuff. So I take both and put it together for this like 360-degree thing in that. So long story. I know this is probably boring some of you. Okay, so I was then working as a zoo consultant, bringing that animal welfare applied thing. How can we improve the quality of life of the animals in the zoo? How can we, in this artificial environment, give them the mental stimulation, the social connectivity, the problem solving, engagement, training, variety, all the fabulous things that they get living in the wild? How can we do that in a captive setting so that we don't have animals that are dying of boredom? And it was when I was doing that I worked very closely with a lot of the vets, because, you know, they're all living the same as we are and things happen. And so they'd be like, okay, well, this one has such and such condition or disease, or, you know, we've developed diabetes in this particular primate, so he's got to have insulin every day, or whatever it happens to be. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here, starting to see a lot of very similar diseases. And I also started to see non-species specific approaches to medicine. I was like, hang on a minute, this is a giraffe. Why are you giving them horse medicine? This is a red panda. Why are you giving them cat medicine? There was not in the toolkit that the conventional veterinarian has. They have a pharmacology set of tools, right? But that hasn't been developed for those animals. It hasn't been tested on them. It hasn't been validated on them. It hasn't proven to be safe, effective, kind, all of the things. So I was like, oh, I'm a little bit uncomfortable about that. And then I started to see as well, hang on a minute, diabetes. We don't see diabetes in the wild animals. Why are we getting them here? Why are they getting arthritis? Those ones aren't getting arthritis. So I was unpacking this story. I was seeing the pattern, unpacking the story. And because I would come from the zoology point of view and had done my fair bit of ecology out in the wild in the rain, right, watching what's normal for them, I was like, this isn't normal. First of all, the system seems to be broken. Second thing is we don't have the right tools. Third thing, we're letting them down. We're letting them, like social contract, if anyone ever studied any of that, like we have a moral duty of care. If we're to take them out of their context, out of their home, put them here and say, can you please be an ambassador animal to speak a conservation message, to represent your cousins in the wild, to go into bat for them, to create an emotional experience for someone so that they care about. If you can take on that job and be that zoo animal, that ambassador, it's our responsibility to make sure that their quality of life is vastly better than the status quo of captivity, but to give them everything they need. So I thought we were failing them. So I took a detour and said, let's go figure out what we need to do to solve these problems and come back with a solution that deals with mind and body, that deals with every species universally without having to do 10,000 studies, which we don't have funding or time for. So my clue was, what are the wild animals doing? What are they doing to prevent those diseases? What are they doing to improve their quantity and quality of life? How can we bring those secrets back in? So I took some time out of the cognitive ethology that I was working with, the mind, the behavior stuff with the animals. And I said, I'm going to study the physiology. I'm going to study the body. I'm going to study medicine. I'm going to figure out what it is they require to heal, to stay strong. And I discovered the best model is a combination of this thing called zoopharmacology, which is wild animal self-medication. How are they doing it in the wild themselves? What knowledge do they have of plants, of the nature of their environment, to the behavior to do and fix that? Combine that with the very best in functional and regenerative medicine, which is coming out of like the biohacking and advanced human medical spaces, where we're not using drugs to interfere with the system, but we're harnessing the system's natural abilities to heal and regenerate normally, which is what we all do, right? But to do that at a better level, to do that faster, more effectively, with less downtime, with less scarring, whatever. So we've got the best of the best from two worlds, put them together. And so that's what I now teach everybody to do. As a longevity zoologist, I'm saying, okay, pet parents, you want your pets to live forever. I get it, because so do I, right? And I'm like, every day is a week to them, right? So I'm going to make everything count, and I'm going to extend that time naturally to reclaim what was lost. Because in the last 50 years, we have basically halved their lifespan. This was the really big issue. When I stepped out of the zoo and looked at the pet section of the animal care market, I was like, oh my gosh, dogs are supposed to go to 20, right? And if you're a little dog, to 25. right? That's normal. That's real. That's biology. That's DNA. That's encoded. That's what they used to do. If you look at the statistics for the United States, Australia, and the UK, and probably elsewhere, but those are the ones I know, we're looking at somewhere between 10 and a half and 11 and a half for the average lifespan of a dog. Half. It's not quite so bad with cats, but it's not great either. So cats, oldest cat on record, guess how old he was? 38. 38 years, right? What's the average here? 15. 15. So I'm like, okay, it's in their DNA. And it's not, I mean, that was the world record that we know about. Who knows what happens before records were even done, right? So I'm up for like being the optimist and going, well, there's plenty more who cracked into the 30s. So how can we help them do that, right? In the wild, it's really challenging to live to the maximum lifespan because the wild is a dangerous place. There's predators, there's nature, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. And if you get injured, is someone going to help you? Probably not, right? So there's risk. So we don't often see lots of really old animals, but what we do see is this pattern of healthy, 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 dead. And we don't see that in the domestic space anymore. We see healthy, healthy, going down, getting 7.5, dead. It's horrible. So when we combine the wild animal wisdom, the rewilding of health, right, with the biohacking, the regenerative medicine, the amazing stuff, what we can do is bless our animals with healthy, 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 right? Get up to that 20, 25, whatever mark, and then right, we might have a week where we're like, oh my gosh, I think it's actually time now. I think it's really finally, but you've got that period of time. Suffering is very minimal, right? They're ready to go. They tell you that they're ready to go. It's a totally different story from that, broken heart of watching them suffer, right? Watching them suffer. Not one single, but I mean, we would trade our arms and legs if we could take away a day of their suffering. I know you would, because I'm the same, right? So this is the solution. This is how to do it. And it's about, anyway, so whew, I should let someone else speak. Let's talk about ecotherapy. Someone give me a question.
No, well, it is such and for people that know me, I'm sure people are seeing how similar we are, right? In our philosophies, like what I even talk about, like even at my vet hospital, it was like I wanted them to be born. And then I wanted like a plane, right? Be born, fly along, couple of little tiny bumps in the turbulence here and there, but not a lot. And then a slow, steady decline and gone, right? Not this, like it's just and you don't see that. You don't see it. You see, that's one of my big things is that at my clinic, I saw chronic disease starting at as young as like a year old, sometimes younger, right? Like, puppy vaginitis after a vaccination that gets suppressed is, an allergy by the time they're 8 months old, right? Like it starts so young because we're so disconnected, right? That's my main thing is that we're disconnected in such a big way. So I'm excited to find out what you're talking about. Your systems and your pillars and all of that stuff. So do we have questions? Oh, I don't even know where the questions are. Here we go.
We do
Uh,
have some, but I have this feeling that I actually want to hear a little bit more about Penny talking about the topic ecotherapy, because I guess maybe after that we will have even more questions related to the
I was
topic.
thinking, I was thinking that too, because I don't think people really know what to ask because they don't know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me unpack that for you. So to simplify all of those years of study, right? A lot of like behavioral neuroscientists, a lot of zoology, a lot of structure and function, a lot of medical, right? There's a lot of study going on. So I was like, let's condense that down. What's the irreducible complexity of this, where it's the minimum number of things, but it's together that will work perfectly. So I have a framework called the 7 pillars of animal longevity. And pillar number 5 in this is what I used to call natural environments, but now I call ecotherapy. Okay, so we're going to really kind of dive into pillar 5 here. In case you wanted to know, some of the other pillars include species appropriate diet, detoxification, the microbiomes, movement and exercise, hormones, and then finally mental health. So together, you need every single one of those things. Together they make the lifestyle of the animal. This is the stuff that you choose for them, right? You're not choosing their DNA or whatever, right? You chose who to bring to home, right? Who to adopt, but they bring their own DNA, right? But you're choosing how do they live. And when we look at the longevity science, we discover something phenomenal, that it's not genetics that has the big arm in determining lifespan. In fact, genetics plays somewhere between 5 and 10%. 5 and 10% is determined by your genetics. The rest of it is lifestyle. So that's in your power. You've got 90+% control over how long your animal lives. And that's the good news, because if you want your animal to live forever, okay, that we can't do forever. But if you right, if you want to reclaim that lost time, if you want to do that doubling lifespan thing that we talked about, you got 90% control over that by the choices that you make across those 7 areas of their lifestyle, half of which you're already doing anyway, because I bet you're feeding them and taking them for a walk and playing with them, right? So you're already doing the stuff anyway. It's just tweaking it up. It's just knowing a little bit more. It's making a wiser decision instead of the average decision. That's all we're talking about. That's why I say it's so easy. 12-year-old can do it. So we're going to dive into ecotherapy, which is pillar number 5. What happens with a domestic animal? Okay, why is a domestic animal different from a wild animal? And it's in the brain. Their biology is almost exactly the same. There are minor differences because the brain is going to be controlling things slightly differently. Okay, but effectively, domestication happens here, not here.
Yeah.
So when we've got someone who's in with our home and who's very comfortable being in the human world and has bonded with us and communicates backwards and forwards with us, their biology is still like the wild animals out there. But what we do is we make a mistake out of love. So it's kind of cute because we're like, oh, look how much you love. You did the thing, but you got it wrong. So the thing that we do is we treat them like us, because you say, your family, come in, be fed, be all the things, like we love you. And I tell you what, I'm going to do what like the human world tells me to do for you. Wrong. What the human world tells you to do is going to result in the decline that we see. That is the status quo in pet care. Okay. Wild animals spend, if it's not 100%, it's 99, because something, they had an adventure one day. But 100%, 99% of their life immersed in nature. Not just looking at it out the window going, oh, that's a nice view. No, immersed in nature. It's all around them. It's where their house is. It's where they find their food. It's where they play. It's where they problem solve. It's where they do everything. Nature is all encompassing for them. And nature's a really dynamic thing. Nature changes all the time. Just watch the sunrise, sunset. Just watch the weather forecast change across the course of 1 week. Okay. The wind direction, the air temperature, the soil moisture, how much precipitation is coming down. And we're just talking about the weather. Okay. What about then, which other animals are walking in and out of your space? What sounds are being produced by the rest of the life that lives in your same quadrant? What else? Is it sunny today? Am I going to get, some warmth and things? Am I going to be cold? Like, how do I problem solve this? What if I'm an ectotherm? Ectotherm meaning one that doesn't have hot blood, right? What if I'm a lizard and the sun hasn't come out for 2 weeks? What am I doing? I haven't got any energy to go find food because I need the sun to warm me up. So there's a problem. We've got to problem solve. So nature is so stimulating for the mind with problem solving and what do I need to do? How do I get there? Will I stay safe? Do I know my way back? All of this stuff. So the mind is constantly on the go. And that's what happens in domestic animals too. The mind is constantly learning. When I started being an animal trainer, the first thing one of the first things we were told is the animal is learning whether you are training them or not. Whether you are teaching them or not, they are learning. They're observing and they're looking at patterns. They're understanding what's going on. They're taking that in because they do that. That's what they're supposed to do. So nature enriches the mind. But here's the thing that most people forget. Nature enriches their body. Nature is strengthening their health. So what does nature mean? Let's break that down. It's a big thing, nature, okay? And each animal has its own ecosystem, but no matter what their ecosystem is and their place in it, in terms of are you predator, are you prey, whatever, no matter what your place in there are 5 aspects of nature, 5 spheres, we call them, that are influencing your life, okay? This is really, really key. So we have the hydrosphere, hydro meaning water, so everything to do with water. So there'll be rain, snow, fog, mist, all that kind of stuff. It's also rivers, lakes, streams, bogs, oceans. It's also waterfalls, the movement of water in a vortice or a wave or things like that. So the hydrosphere, animals, I mean, you don't have life without water, okay? So it's pretty essential. And what do we do to replace water? We put down a bowl. It probably came out of the tap. The bowl might be plastic. I mean, is that really right? So you can start to see like the richness, the diverse tapestry of what water is in the wild, and then what the animals actually have. So a hydrosphere, we have the geosphere. Okay, geo meaning rock, right? So rock or ground or earth. Okay, so the geosphere is things like rocks, minerals, chalks, metals, salts, clays, all the things that come out of the ground, all that inorganic material. If you ever played the game Animal, Vegetable, Mineral, you know, it's like it's the mineral bit. But grounding, the ground, the earth also gives us this electrical component too. So by standing on the earth, the animals are constantly discharging the positive ions that build up in their body. Now that's a negative aspect. It gets complicated with the language. That is a unhealthy state for a body to be in, to be positively charged. That's like a toxin that needs to come out. And it's so easy to get it out. You just take your shoes off, you stand on the grass, it's done. The animals out there are doing that every single day. They're grounding the whole time. Their blood is getting thinner and pumping beautifully. Their erythrocytes, their red blood cells, are declumping from each other. Oxygenation is improved. The list goes on of what's happening. The number of free radicals and things is diminished. It's phenomenal. So grounding, geosphere gives us all of that, as well as those minerals and things. Then we have, what do we have next? The biosphere. Okay, bio meaning life. So that is everybody else. Okay, so from your soil microbes and the fungi and the mycelium things, all talking to the roots of the forest and the trees themselves, and all the plants, all the greenery, all the herbs, all the bush, right, all the flowers, all that. Then all the animals, from your little squiggly wormy things all the way up to the king of the jungle. That's the biosphere. So that might be to an animal, that might be prey, that might be predator, that might be a threat, that might be a friend, that might be a mate, that might be a visitor, that might be completely irrelevant. That might also be the sound. Think of all the birds of the forest, or what the music that life creates, the cicadas and the insects buzzing and all those things. That all of that is the biosphere. Then we have the atmosphere. Okay, air. Really hard to live without air. Okay, so there's quality of air, there's composition of air, there's temperature of air, and the atmosphere itself is actually made up of many, many layers that go up from the troposphere up to like the stratosphere. We obviously, the animals, we're not really hanging out right up that little crux between nature and space, but the thermal properties, the protective shields, the level, the degree of ozone that's there has a very direct effect on the animal. Ozone is basically sunscreen. It's sunscreen for the earth. Without any ozone, we're fried, literally. Okay, so the more ozone there is, the more the animals are protected from the bad effects of sun and can enjoy the good effects of sun. So atmosphere is far more important than just what you're breathing. But ancient atmospheres, interestingly enough, which we know from those ice cores that they can dig out of places, they're showing that the ancient atmospheres used to be twice as rich in oxygen than what they are now. So we have oxygen about 21% in our air. It was 36% back then. 36% means you can oxygenate a whole lot better. And when we do that, we see what happens to the animals. And typically they get very big. So you remember dinosaurs and giant mammals and things like that. Was a reason for that. So atmospheric. So you can see atmosphere can have a very strong effect on what happens to our animals. On the other end of the spectrum, if you've got a brachycephalic dog, you know for sure that they're not getting enough oxygen, right? So the deleterious effects of that are poor respiratory, thermoregulation is compromised. The list goes on of those kinds of things. So we know that atmosphere can be critically important. So those are 4, and what's the last one? Heliosphere, okay? Light. But more than light, it's the whole electromagnetic spectrum, which if you know anything about the physics of that, will go from X-rays and gamma rays and radio waves and whatever. But it's also visible light, so all of the spectrum of sun, the rainbows, right? And then the invisible, so the ultraviolet and the UV and things like that as well. So having a light deficiency is a very real thing for our pets, especially if they're always inside animals for safety reasons or high-rise apartment, whatever, right? Artificial light is not good for them. It's not good for us either, but it's not good for them. They need that access to the electromagnetic spectrum and natural light. So those 5 areas, geosphere, hydrosphere, heliosphere, biosphere, and atmosphere, cover nature. And each one of them has healing properties, protection properties for the body, and also enriching properties for the mind. So at home, we need to do a lot of stuff like training and enrichment and changing their day and their routine and bringing in variety and bringing in social life and friends and play dates and new toys and all of this stimulation, because like I said, they're constantly on. They're constantly on. That's the natural state of an animal, to be constantly on, except when they're sleeping, but when they're awake, like to be on. They're learning. They're looking for something to do. Out in the wild, they're fully occupied. You know, it's only really the carnivore animals that eat meat who have the luxury of free time, leisure time to play, to develop language, to develop culture, to go adventuring. So these are not behaviors that are enjoyed by most prey species, who have to spend a lot of time consuming those green grasses and things that are very low in calories, right? And they've got a big old body. Like if you're a big old bison, right, there's a lot of calories you need to power up. Grass has got, I don't know, like a calorie per blade or something. So you're going to have to be chomping a long, long time before you've reached maintenance level, right? And then play and adventure and discovery, that takes energy. So you got to go beyond maintenance level. So you can see they're constantly got a job to do. They're occupied. They're employed. Okay, employed in the sense of, you know, 24/7 they've got a job, and if they don't do their job, they probably die, right? So it's not really optional. So that is still inside our pets. They're looking for, what can I do? How can I get occupied? What can I learn? What can I engage with? Problem solve, discover, all the stuff. So unless we replicate by being very invested in the behavior side for them and training and socializing and all the rest of it, they're sitting there and their brain is kind of going and scrunching down to nothing. And then if they don't have nature to observe, to engage with, then that's their natural playground, if you like. Like we might flick the TV on to be entertained and stimulated and to learn, and we might Google and use ChatGPT and whatever else that we're doing to get information to feed our curiosity, to do our problem solving, right? But for animals, that's nature. You've just, by taking them, and I say you, it's not like it's not you, it's humanity, right? We do this. We remove them from their primary source of health, their primary source of stimulation, and their primary source of occupation. And then we wonder why they've got behavior issues and health issues. It's really, really simple. Now, I know that some of you don't have that option. I used to live on the 10th floor in a fancy apartment building in Melbourne, and there was no way that I had nature. I was in the middle of the city. I had a beautiful view to the sea, but I didn't have options to give my cat nature in the real sense of go outside and play. She wasn't even allowed in the apartment building. Like I was illegally there with her. Like no pets allowed. I had a stuffed cat, right? A stuffed black and white cat, like a teddy toy one, right? And I would put that in the window. So if any neighbors ever complained and said, oh, I think that person's got a cat, I was like, yeah, no, I don't have a cat. It's just a stuffy over there. It's just a toy, you know, and I would hide her under the bed, you know. So anyway, so she didn't have nature. I understand that. Here's the exciting thing. catios and protected zones, and thankfully the rental things and whatever, the rental is a bit more compassionate in some areas now to allow you to have pets and do that kind of thing. But even when you can't, you can bring nature in, and that's one of the solutions, because there's always a free one. There's always a free solution. Go out in nature. Like, you don't have to put money in the meter to turn the sun on, or to get some atmosphere, or to walk on the grass. Like, you just can go and do that. If you can't go and do that, you can pay to bring nature into your home, whatever that means. So pay might be in your time, right? You might have to go down to the sea and collect up some seaweed and collect up some sticks and dirt and things from the forest and whatever. And I'm not talking about pilfering the forest. I'm talking about just like taking a little handful of stuff that was nobody wanted, right? You could fill the bathtub with that, or the bottom of your shower with that. Somewhere you can lay down a plastic ground sheet and create nature on the floor at home, right? There's hundreds of things we can talk about, but you can bring nature in. You can buy light globes that are not your standard LED, but they're nature. They're a sunlight bulb, right? So they're gonna shine sunlight out on you inside the environment, right? You can get air purifiers and ionizers, okay, that will take out those positive charges, the unhealthy air, and make it healthy again with that negative charge. You can buy grounding mats so the pets can put their little paws on there and earth down, and even if they're not able to go outside on the grass. So there's technology, there are supplements and things like that you can do for the inside benefits of what nature gives. So there's you can invest either time, right, or money. That's what we're always ever going to be investing, time or money. There's a free option, but it's probably going to take some of your time. There's a money option, it's probably going to take some dollars out of your pocket, right? But either way, there's a solution for someone to solve this problem of the nature deficiency in animals, which is an all-encompassing thing. Let me pause there, because probably someone's got a question.
Actually,
I want to.
oh, sorry, Julie.
That's
No, go
okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's the same way that you. I mean, I agree, and I've been really trying to um persuade people at my clinic to, take your dog for a walk, don't use your cell phone, do, like just very similar to what you're saying, like as far as getting into nature. But what I think is really interesting that you just said now is I feel that we're doing the same thing with our plants and our supplements, right? So for me, when I formulate in a lot of the R&D that I'm doing, that's why when whatever herbs we're using or our medicinal mushrooms, let's say, they're growing in the forest because I believe the same thing. They're getting wisdom, right? They're getting wisdom and they're becoming resilient, right? They're having to adapt to the change in the weathers. They're having to and then you're ingesting that wisdom, that it just can't be under a microscope. We can't look at that wisdom that a plant in the wild um, gives us from a perspective of a supplement or an herb or a mushroom. We can't see that under a microscope. We can see beta glucans and polyphenols and triterpenes and all of that, but we can't see that wisdom. And I believe so much what you just said, because if you're going to take an herb or a medicinal mushroom or whatever, then for me and for all of our supplements, that's what we do, right? It's like we choose or we grow herbs or mushrooms that are exactly what you're talking about, so that animals or people that are deficient of being able to go out and hunt for their own herbs or their own mushrooms or their own whatever are ingesting some of that energy, right? Some of that natural energy. And even like for our wolf strain, when you were talking about age and longevity and whatever, and it's incredible because I always hoped that that wolf strain would have that fingerprint to to give back some of that remembrance of what it was like to be wild, right? What it was like to be all of that stuff. So it's you can actually see it working with probiotics coming from a wolf. You can actually see it working with mushrooms that are being grown in the dirt and in the forest and all of that. So it's so fascinating how it's all really one. There really is no separation, right? So, Mariana, should we take some questions or?
Yes. So there is one question here, and when you start talking about the Catio and how you can, let me open the Q&A, and how we can bring nature inside too and stuff like that. I actually have a question, and then maybe we can merge with this other one. So because sometimes we have like, okay, busy lives and our animals are inside, is there like any, like for how long we should be taking them outside and I don't want to use this word, but treat them this way, like using, or there's no time. What do you suggest? And then I can merge with the other question here that maybe we can ask both of them. So this person, it's an anonymous attendee, but the person is asking in terms of the topic, if you build a catio, do you need to watch out for stray cats in the yard? Can they pass a virus to my usual indoor kitty? What do I need to be careful of? And I think it's not maybe only about the catio, but I guess what we need to be careful of. It's also a good question in general, like for every animal going outside. I don't know if people are afraid of, because most of people with dogs, I guess it's okay. Like it's more, I would say, normal for them to have their dogs outside, but maybe people with cats, sometimes they are staying indoor for so long. So how people will have to behave.
Yeah. Okay, great question. So the short answer to the first one is as much as possible. As much as possible. Right? Seriously. Because again, taking the gold standard, like what is the best of the best? And that is 24/7. Okay. Now 24/7 works when you're not domestic. When you're domestic, you want to be in company with your humans because your brain has been altered to, through the process of breeding and selection to have that affinity, to have that connection, right? So we don't want to do that to our domestics. We want to bring them, we want to have them as part, and they want to be part. But the answer is as much as possible, particularly when you're there too. Now, here's the nice thing is every minute that you're out with them, you're also getting all those healing benefits. They don't stop at the fur coat, right, of the furry animal, right? You get all that benefit too. So the more you're outside in those environments, getting that fresh air, getting that sunshine, doing the things, grounding, smelling the herbs, getting your hands in the soil, whatever it happens to be, you benefit too. Okay, so you've got the social between you and your pets and how much fun they have when you go outside, but you're both individually getting the benefits. So they're really as much as you can do. And I understand that people are different. There are some people who are like really indoor bunnies. Like they just like being inside. They want to do their reading. They want to sit in their comfort. Like, I'm not telling you to change your lifestyle. I'm just saying here's a piece of information that you may not have heard that is going to help your animal do better. If you want to do something with that information because you love them and want to invest in that for them, and now you're empowered to do so. You weren't, 3 hours ago, right? But now you are. So you have a choice. Something's opened up for you. You don't have to change your lifestyle, but it might be a good thing to think about. Are you giving your pet the lifestyle that they're looking for? Because they're kind of hoping that you're going to give them what they really want. Because who wouldn't want what they really want, right? And they're trusting you to look after them. And here's the thing, this is what breaks my heart, is I look sometimes and I think, oh my gosh, I broke trust because I said I loved you, but I didn't do I didn't do the thing that you wanted me to do. I didn't give you what you were really looking for. And this is why ever since I was 5 years old, I've been trying to unlock what is it that they want and need and love so that we can give that to them. Because if they've got what they want and need and love, not only does their welfare go up, their health goes up too. You think about that when you're happy, when you're buzzing, when you're having a great time, any pain you might be feeling is diminished because endorphins are diminishing that. Your mood is better. The whole biophysiology changes as a result of that. And you have an optimism and outlook. Your immune system can function better. The list goes on. So unlocking what they're looking for, what makes them healthy, happy, right, is so important. So there's that side of it. Okay. The healthy bit, the access. Okay, so here's the thing. Again, we fall into the trap of thinking that they are snowflakes, the slightest bit of sun or rain or whatever, and they're going to melt and be destroyed or die or get a disease or fall apart or whatever, right? And no, they're not. They're robust. Animals are robust. They're meant to live outside. They're meant to cope with these challenges and dangers. They have an immune system to to protect them. They've got all kinds of things in their body to give them the power to survive, right? So the question becomes then, are we somehow providing them with what it is they need for their body to protect them, right? An immune system is a system, it's a factory, it works, but it only works when it's got the right ingredients. So if you have terrible nutrition, because all you're eating is little nuggets of carbohydrate, right? Then how are you going to build up a fabulous immune system that relies heavily on there being the right proteins and other micronutrients in there? You're going to have an immune system, but it might be you're operating at 25%. So that means when you engage with anything in life, whether it's inside and you chewed on the plastic bowl that gave you plastic poisoning, right? Or you're outside and you got stung by a bee, either way, you're going to need your immune system to jump in and do something. So by optimizing the immune system through the other 7 pillars that we talked about, through the food choices and doing some detoxification and assisting the body and the cells in their processes, and this doesn't have to be scientific and complicated, it's super easy, and I make it super easy for you. I just give you all the answers, right? Then their immune system's going to go up. And we might be sitting on 80% now. So that bee sting that might have been a little bit touch and go there with like the massive anaphylactic shock or some kind of, right, is now like, oh yeah, well that hurt for 5 minutes, but I'm good. Carry on. And actually there's medicinal properties in bee venom. Melittin is actually incredibly therapeutic against Lyme disease and all kinds of things. So there's benefit even into the bad bit of being out there. Now, when it comes to somebody else's cat or a stray or a virus or a zoonotic disease or those kinds of things, listen, you do need to talk to your vet about those things, right? Because they do need to have the some level of protection for those kinds of infectious diseases. I'm not a specialist in infectious diseases, and I make that really obvious right up. I'm not a vet and I don't deal with that sort of thing. But what I can tell you is the right vaccines in the right measure at the right time with the right detoxification and protection for when you're having one will give you the protection that you need to help boost up your immune system, to give you those antibodies so that you have that protection, and that protection is then almost always conferred for life. So you don't need to like over-vax with like top up and top up and top up all the time, right? So the immune system will say, oh, okay, that's what I need to build, that particular antibody. Brilliant. I've got the recipe now. No problem. Got it under control. That disease is never going to be a problem. So you've got to be smart and say, what are the risks in my area? Okay, because you might be in an area where the risk is 0 of a particular disease. Well, don't bother. Like, don't even stress yourself out. Right? If you're in a risk where it's 90% chance that exists, and by going into nature, you might get exposed to that. Okay, then it'll be a smart move to do some investigations with your vet and say what protection would be required. And that could be a holistic vet or a regular vet or whoever, right? So they will guide you through those sort of pathology, infectious types of things. So you can provide that and give them access safely, but you don't need to wrap them in cotton wool. Cats were never designed to live inside, right? They weren't. They were, ancient Egyptians would like pamper them and give them all, right? But the cats were still mucking around out in the sun, right? They're desert animals, right? Cats are by genetic design a desert species, typically speaking, and then they migrated off into the forests, right, and became jungle cats too. But they meant to be out there doing that. Yes, they want to lie on a silk cushion and be hand-fed tuna all day, but that's because they're princesses. If you put them outside, they will find a cushion of nature and they will eat something themselves, right? So it's just better for them, and then we can spoil them and lavish them with all this love that we want to do because we love them so much, and they're bonded and imprinted on us. So we get the best of both worlds, but they really look to you to give them the other world that they're currently probably missing a big chunk of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
someone asked about indoor cats going outside need to be vaccinated, and constant vaccination is not good for them. So what's worse, being indoors or being constantly vaccinated? And being constantly vaccinated is a fallacy. Animals don't have to be constantly vaccinated. They only need their puppy and kitten vaccinations, and even then they should be done a little bit later on in their lives. But you don't have to continue vaccinating your animals. That's really old
Mm.
science. There's lots and lots of new science out there supporting the fact that even with some animals, they're after their 6 month booster, they don't need them anymore. So, in each vaccine is different, each disease is different. So that's something that I wanted to just speak to this question, because um, when you look at different diseases, you have to literally ask your vet for the independent vaccination. So you don't want to have the whole combination of, 9 different vaccines at once, because those vaccines probably aren't even prevalent in your area. So you have to just be a real advocate and look at what's prevalent in your area and ask your vets to only independently vaccinate for those prevalent diseases, and definitely not every year and constantly being vaccinated. So I don't think, for Vanny G question, it isn't one or the other. It's not being indoors or being constantly vaccinated. It's like what Penny was saying, is you find that balance, right? So you make sure that your cattery is protected, that they're safe in it, but you don't need to be. And how many stray cats are there? And is distemper or panleukopenia a real issue in your neighborhood, or is all the cats outside in your neighborhood walking around probably cats from a house that have already got their vaccination? So I think it's a little bit of a fear mongering for sure, and you just need to do your due diligence and find out what they need and where they are.
yeah,
Tons of stray cats that live. Yeah, but still, like those tons of stray cats that live across from your house, those you still don't need to be giving even the vaccine that would protect, like panleukopenia and things like that would protect your cat from those stray cats, shouldn't be given like constantly. So it's just this over vaccination perspective that Penny and I are talking about. Like it's not, when we got polio vaccines, or when we got vaccinations, or when people get vaccinations as children, they're not every year, they're not every 6 months, they're not constant. You're not getting childhood illnesses for the rest of your life every year, or childhood vaccinations. And they're very similar. Certain vaccinations, certain diseases are your risk versus benefits. Certain diseases, once and it's an adult cat, or once and it's an adult dog, they're not as prevalent because they're kitten or childhood or puppy illnesses. They aren't as dangerous when they're older.
yeah.
Do we have some more questions?
We do. Actually, there's two here that I guess can falls under what you mentioned about knowing the area where you live and be cautious about this. So one is asking any specific precautions to take to protect against bird flu before, during, and after spending time outdoors. And then if you can
Okay,
answer
again,
this, then
I'm
I can
gonna,
go to the other one.
yeah, I'm going to have to again refer you back to your vet, because that's outside of my specialty to speak about, bird flu and what happens in one jurisdiction over another, and the risks in your area. I don't know. I'm in the UK. It's a different scenario. So I think it's fantastic that you are clued up to what is a risk in your area, and you are asking these questions because you want to get those answers. but your vet or your normal sort of clinical medical provider is going to be able to give you a better answer than, I mean, I'm stabbing in the dark and going, well, if they're a cat, they're probably not going to get bird flu. But don't take that from me, because I don't know, because I don't study these kinds of diseases. I look at welfare and health and protection and happiness.
Amazing. Another question. Oh,
Mariana,
sorry.
too, when it comes to the bird flu, I think my recommendations for that is that people do their research. Like for me, it's all about, and I understand exactly what you're saying, Penny, but I also believe that there are many different views on it, and I've always just tried to empower people to uh, do their own due diligence, read both sides of every story, look at the science, read the biology, like really dig into it yourself, and then make the informed decision based on what's the most comfortable for you, right? Like what is your heart saying? What would you do for your child? What would you do for your family? What is your gut instincts telling you to do, right? But I wouldn't do anything until I dug into all of the different information that's out there.
Um, okay, so I know that before I told everyone that I was going to ask like the first come first served questions, but because there are a lot of questions here that are not so much related to the topic, I will scramble it a little bit and then select them from. um, and one here is, what is your recommendation for outdoor time for dogs during extreme weather conditions, particularly very high, low temperatures, especially for senior or unwell dogs? Climate change is very hard on dogs.
Great question. So there are fabulous guidance, guidelines, I suppose, for what temperature is too much for different types of dogs, what temperature is too much to be standing on for burning, for exposure, right? It also depends on the length of the fur. If you've got a single coat and very thin fur and pale skin, obviously you're going to be much higher risk than someone with a double coat, who's got the protection, but they're going to get a bit hot. So, I mean, your dog, and what their needs are in terms of temperature control. Take those guidelines that say it's too cold, do not go outside, they will get frostburned, right? Or buy them booties, right? And or conversely, it's too hot. And remember, temperature changes at height. Okay, so it used to fascinate me because the Australian Open, right, is always played in summer, right? And they would say, oh, it's 36 degrees, right? Oh golly, I don't know what that's in American, like 90 something, I don't know, in Fahrenheit, but so it's a roasty kind of toasty day. But on court, right, because the actual surface area of the is like 52, which is like, I don't know, 120 or something ridiculous, right? So the tennis shoes of the players would start to melt during the Australian Open. So remember that down low, which is where your pets are, is hotter than where it is where your kind of head and body are. So take into effect. So again, I don't know what's going to be too hot, too cold, but a very quick Google search will show you what that is. And then you can get a sun visor, right, to protect that snout from being sizzled if the snout fur is very thin, right? I'm not a huge fan of sunscreen for various reasons, but there are some pet safe ones. So do your homework and find one that you think has got the right kind of ingredients and it's going to be not toxic. But use your common sense. Going outside doesn't mean sitting in the blistering sun, right? Or sitting in a blizzard and building an igloo, right? Going outside can be, well, let's go to the forest today, because the forest is always 10 degrees cooler than the rest of it, because the trees just, they grab onto it, right? So you can go into different ecosystems, different types of nature. You don't have to go around running, right? If it's roasting hot, again, you can go outside, right? But you can just say, okay, well, we're going to say really just chill out walk. I'm going to bring a whole lot of like herbs with me, and we're just going to scatter some herbs as we go. And so it's going to be like a safari the sunlight and the heat of the ground is going to activate the oils in those plants really quickly. So the sniffing is going to be super fun. And we're just going to take 10 minutes and do that. Or so you just get creative. Like it's kind of like if it feels too hot or too cold for you, it's probably too hot or too cold to your pets as well. It's fairly straightforward. But I mean, there are things like, okay, what could you get a paddle pool? Could you get one of those like kiddie blow up pools, or you know, depending on whether they're going to survive the claws or not. But like something in your garden, you don't have to go like thousands of miles away, right? But now you can fill that up. You fill that with water. Now you got a water thing, and you can throw some like, you know, floaty things in there. You can throw some sea salt in there. You can make it into like a little beach. Grab some seaweed next time you're down at the beach, or from a garden center or something like that, and throw that. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can do to put nature into your own back garden or your balcony or your bathtub, depending on what your kind of context is. And one of my favorites is to throw down a big old bed sheet in the living room for your cats, and then you grab like half a dozen different dried herbs. So you got some marigolds here, some rosebuds there, some valerian, some lavender, some catnip, whatever, and you just put them in little piles on this big old sheet, and then say, come on cats, let's go explore the herb garden. And they come on in and they like, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat this one, I'm going to roll in this one I'm going to throw around and do. That's nature too. So if it's too hot or too cold, just play inside with, and then there's endless ideas. Like I could probably write 20 things down in and just pick something. So there's kind of no wrong way of doing it. Just use your common sense and go, is it natural? Can I bring it inside? You can do that. You can make mud. I mean, it's a bit messy, but they love a mud bath, like literally a mud bath. Go get big shovels of soil, right? Stick it in the bath, pour the tap, and then close the door so they don't go all through the house with the mud. But I mean, that's amazing. It does great things for the skin. You can throw some other clay type of stuff in there and make it into like a spa day for them. I mean, nature can be everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like you said, we can bring nature inside for sure. There are options. There is a long question here, but I thought that it would be nice asking you, because and also we can have like Julie's point of view for this one too. I love taking our 6-year-old puppy hiking and into the woods, and he loves it too. The issue is that at certain times of the year there are so many ticks. Spring and fall is the worst. Our vet had originally suggested a pill that kills the ticks when they bite him, but then he started having liver labs that were somewhat abnormal, and I won't give him the pills anymore since they are basically toxic. When I take him out, I do tick checks, but he's got a lot of thick fur. He's a Tibetan Terrier. Also, we do cut his hair short in the warm months. I tend to miss them on occasion. We have Lyme disease in the area for sure, along with some other tick-borne diseases. During the spring, summer, and fall, I give him a Japanese knotweed tincture, but are there other suggestions? I also give him a probiotic regularly and positive immunity and omega-3 supplement, and sometimes turkey tails, especially if I find a tick that's been attached.
Okay, so the ones that poison the ticks when the ticks bite are ridiculous, because it's not going to stop a tick getting on you, and they are going to poison your dog. They're not my favorite method. There are some amazing bioresonance type of tags that you can put on their collars that put out a frequency thing that deter. You can use things like neem and garlic and deterrents like that. Any of your holistic vets are going to have free downloads that go through natural pesticide, parasite, repellent theories. I mean, you can go to Rita Hogan and have a look at all the herbs and the stuff that she works with, Dr. Judy Morgan and Karen Beck. I mean, you just name it. You've got those people there. They pour out these resources every year of like what's available. Now, you can use a barrier method as well. Okay, so you can get protective clothing. And now it does depend on, again, temperatures and things. You don't be putting like a big old woolly coat on a hot day. But like, for example, when we go scuba diving in Australia, there's a lot of jellyfish, or there can seasonally, there can be a lot of, so we wear a stinger suit. Okay. So a stinger suit is really thin. so you don't get too hot in the water and doing all your stuff. It's not like wearing a 3-5 mil wetsuit or something. You're gonna like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. So a stinger suit is really thin, but it's going to protect you from those tentacles when they come along, so you don't get stung all the time. So something like that, that's a lightweight little coat that is kind of slippery on the outside. You know, it's not like woolly and they go, oh yeah, I'm going to grab onto that. They kind of go, oh, I fell off. So you could think about things like that are a protective barrier thing. You could also be, okay, judicious, and you can't control this necessarily so well, but it's like, okay, we're getting through the real undergrowth, the real thick area here. Ticks are probably everywhere. Why don't you hop in the backpack and I'll take you through this bit. So you can protect them through that sort of, you know, let's get you out of there. Or if it's a seasonal thing, you're just like, oh, to tell you what, we're going to not go through that bit of nature during these high risk times and just avoid it altogether. So we're going to go off to somewhere else. I don't know your area to suggest what, you know, might be another ecosystem to investigate. But you could go to places like the beach where there aren't any ticks, right? And I mean, if you're in you know, Kansas, that might not work out so well for you. But I'm just like, what is in your area that might be possible that's a different ecosystem for those particular areas. So again, nature is a risky place, right? We've all seen nature documentaries and somebody got eaten, right? Nature's full of that kind of stuff. Obviously we are going to be protecting our pets as our moral duty of care to protect for them, as right. So we're going to be making sure that, but we don't have to then go so far the other way that they miss out on all of that. It's you know, weigh that risk reward thing of what are they going to gain during this time. They're going to gain some grounding, they're going to gain exercise, they're going to strengthen their muscles, they're going to be bonding with me, they're going to be meeting other people, they're going to be exposed to microbiome on the soil, they're going to have fresh air, they're going to whatever it happens to be, right? There's layer upon layer upon layer of benefit from exposure to the natural environments. And then there's a risk. There could be stinging nettles, there could be a bee, there could be a tick, there could be a dog that doesn't like them, there could be, like, I mean, we just don't know. But again, it's having an understanding of what is to be benefited and what might be a risk, and then mitigating or protecting or being wise, making a decision, saying, I'm going to have a little suit, or I'm going to have a backpack, or we're going to go somewhere else, or I'm going to get some kind of device that it does a different type of repelling effect and layer it up. You know, it's like in pain therapy, like we talk about multimodal pain therapy, because there are different pain pathways in the body. There's different types of pain. So if you just use one type of painkiller, you are not necessarily getting an encompassing effect. So you might lower the dose significantly, but then have 3 different ones there that are going to operate in 3 different ways. And I kind of think that's the best approach to take for these kind of parasite situations as well. Let's try something that is a natural repellent that's not going to toxify your dog, right? But in addition to that, let's have some kind of, you know, frequency thing going on. And in addition to that, let's modify our behavior slightly. And in addition to that, let's throw some diatomaceous earth on the top every now and again, or you know what I mean? You can layer up that way. We live in an imperfect world, so ticks exist, and I really, really wish they didn't. But it's not the end of the world. It's not a game. It's not a, you know, like, you cannot pass here. You can definitely overcome this.
I purchased, I did a lot of research on it, and because I have like a total free range farm. Everything goes out. Like my horses, my cows, my potbelly pigs, my chickens, my ducks, my cats, my dogs. Everybody's like outside all the time. And I purchased from Sustainable Herbs, right? Marianne, we have the information. You can put it in the chat. And if for people to go on their website from a perspective of Lyme and ticks, she's got so much information. And she produces an internal herb that you take, that your animals take all the time. And if the tick bites them, it does something with the it somehow blocks the I think it's the T receptor or something of the saliva, or of the tick virus. So it's a really interesting. I put everybody on it this year just to see as a and then she also has one that if your animal does get bit and it gets diagnosed with something, it's more of a treatment or something to, but she's a really wonderful woman because, it takes a lot of um, you know, she's been hit a lot, about, not doing it and it's not working and whatever, but it's great. And then the other thing, you were saying about picking up your dog and putting it and carrying it through the bad things. If you can't do that, I used to um, take sort of like a lemon juice, water, and a really, really light oil. And you could use like avocado oil. You can use all kinds of so really light oil and do a light spritzer. And if it's hot out, you can put this oil in the fridge because it doesn't solidify. Spritz it so it makes it slippery, right? Makes their coat a little slipperier. Take a long handled flea comb, and every once in a while, just stop and flea comb them, and you'll catch the ticks actually because they can't embed that quickly. So there is lots of different things that you can do to mitigate it.
There's
There's
a
a
question.
really
Oh, sorry.
there's a question about her zoopharmacology. There's a question about that there that might be interesting.
Let me see. Do you have it here in front? Do you have it in
It's
front of you?
Yeah, what have you found? It's from Tanya. What have you found using when you start? What have you found using when started looking at zoo pharmacology in your, no, zoo pharma, I think that's
Zoopharmacology.
pharmacon in your research that was a game changer for you as a specialist?
Oh, is a fun question. Some of the intricacies are phenomenal. It's what animals can learn will blow your mind. So I originally learned about this many years ago from a book called Wild Health by a British woman called Cindy Engel. Fantastic book, a little heavy on the science for the general reader, but definitely still approachable, and I highly recommend it. And then obviously anyone who's interested in this, I would point you to Carolyn Ingraham without hesitation, world's best in this stuff. Okay, so that's if you want to dive in and learn more. But there are these amazing stories about elephants who would once a year, and remember the matriarch has the repository of the information. She's a walking encyclopedia. She has so much knowledge that's been passed down through her grandmother and mother until she became matriarch, and now she's right. So she remembers the pathway, the story, what they need to do. Once a year, they'll go on a middle of the night trek, and they'll go a very, very long way, a very long way. And then when they get there, which is this kind of a mountain thing, there's a pathway, and it wouldn't be, I mean, it's obviously more than this, but it's extraordinarily narrow pathway, and they go near, and then they go near like this. It's like a little goat track, and they're winding up and like hairpin bends. You could think, how is an elephant walking up this thing? It's insane. Halfway up the mountain is a cave. The elephants are beelining for this cave, and they all go in there. And if they can't all fit, they take it in turns, and then they kind of shuffle past each other and whatever. But they will sit at the side of it, and they will literally scrape away at the side of this cave to get this particular clay. And all night they're feasting on the clay. They're just scraping away. Every year the cave gets bigger because they're scraping away at it, right? You dig a tunnel out to freedom there, but that all night they're doing this thing, and then when the sun's starting to come up, they're like, okay, it's time to go, and they make their way all the way down, all the way down, all the way down there, and then they walk away, and they don't come back for another whole year. That's it. That's their parasite treatment. That's their gut healing thing. And they do that. They take their medicine. They go to their cave every year, and they all feast it. And everybody else is learning. All the babies are learning the way. They're learning why we do this. They learn what it feels like once we took our medicine. It's phenomenal. And then some of the great apes, they're very dexterous with their fingers. Okay, so internal parasites, where we talked about external ones, worms, like nasty stuff, right? They don't want to have worms. Their tummy's like, oh, I don't know. So they take these leaves off a tree, off a bush. These are hairy leaves, right? They're not tasty leaves. You wouldn't be eating on those. You wouldn't be, and they're like eating a caterpillar. It's all furry on your tongue. They don't like it. But what they do is they take a leaf, they roll it up. Like if anyone makes their own cigarettes, it's kind of like this, like you roll it up, right? And it's very precise, and they kind of do this little licky thing, and they make this furry on the outside piece of like pipe cleaner. And then they very carefully swallow it down like a sword swallower. This thing goes through their gut as a rolled up leaf, like a pipe cleaner with the hairs on the outside. As it goes through the intestines, it's like a brush. It's like grabbing all the worms. It's like polishing the worms out of the gut system. The zoologists who work in the field look at I mean, zoologists in the field are always looking at poop. There's so much information to be found. What are they eating? What are they doing? Whatever. Cortisol levels, hormones, the whole thing. So we know a lot about poop, and they see in when they've been doing this all day and having these special furry leaves, all the worms are on the floor the next day. The worms have all been scooped out from this thing. So it's astonishing. Sometimes they'll take plants that are particularly bitter and nasty that they would never eat the rest of the time, but when they're feeling a particular thing, they will go and eat those, and they seem to be palatable for that period of time. Caroline Ingram's work looks at this thing about when your body knows you need that as medicine, it becomes delicious for that short period of time that you need it, and then as soon as you don't need it anymore, it's disgusting again, and you're like, oh. And that's how they protect against toxicity. That's how they dose carefully and never go and right. So it's phenomenal what they can do. So it was not one particular thing that I thought, wow, that's the answer to the modern medicine, but it was the story after story after story of the creative ways that the animals were finding what they needed to do, and then according to their kind, right, using the skill sets that they had to then access that. And here's the amazing thing. There is something inside every ecosystem. So for example, if you needed that astringent kind of thing to help with the blood, for example, there's a leaf in a savanna that will do that. There's also a leaf in the tropical forest that will do that. There's also a seaweed down on the coast that will do that. It doesn't matter where you go, that nature has provided the thing that the animals in that ecosystem can then access. So it's not like, oh, I'm a seal, done it, I can never get to the savannah and get my furry leaf, right? It's like, no, we've got something for you here. So it was just the I don't know if you want to call it the design, the intelligence, the beauty, the elegance, the sophistication, the majesty, whatever, of nature that it provides for everybody. No animal has to go without. And then they they use their intelligence, their creativity, their smarts, their natural understanding. They're so close to all this stuff. They're living and breathing it. They're surrounded by it. They know it. When we look at what they do, we learn stuff in medicine. They've taken doctors, well, they didn't take the doctors out so much, but they showed the doctors the results. Like they studied, field work, zoopharmacology. What's happening? What are the animals actually doing? Why are they eating that? So then the scientists take that plant and they break it down in the lab and they go, what's in here? Why is that working? Why would they do that? And they suddenly go, oh my gosh, it's got this molecule in there. This is a really powerful molecule. This is going to actually do a thing. Like this is whatever. And so then the human medical profession says, brilliant. Let's make some of that for us and give it to it. And lo and behold, the medical problem's been solved thanks to the animals who gave us the information. So it was kind of that thing of like, it's not just a small thing. It's not just like a little byline of like, oh yeah, one time one animal kind of did a thing. It was like, no, the repository of knowledge out there, and that can be unpacked for everybody, because the beauty. And remember, I started the talk. I was saying how in the zoo we didn't have species-specific medicine. We didn't have species-specific pharmacology for that red panda, right? Because it just doesn't exist. So when I went out searching, I was like, my rules are, it has to be safe. We don't want side effects on those animals. It has to be effective. Like this has really got to work. It's got to change things for them. It has to be compassionate, which meaning that I can say to them, do you want to participate in this? Do you want to be involved? Is this going to somehow, rather than just going yoink, hello animal, look, you get a thing whether you want it or not. It was like, let's be participatory and compassionate and cooperative in the way that we're doing it. Those things has to be natural, right? Which kind of feeds back to the do no harm piece at the start. And lastly, it needs to be universal. And when I say universal, it has to be something that I can give to all species or almost all species, because there's always like one or two outliers who are weird. But like, because we're going to work at the biology level, we're going to look at cell level, we're going to work with mammals, the entire mammal kingdom, right? Now, there'll be a universal stuff for birds, and sometimes it's the same as mammals too, but their physiology is different. And I'm not a bird specialist, so I'm a mammal specialist. And so I needed something that was universal. So it didn't matter if I was going off to help a zebra or a dog or a pangolin or a sea lion. I could say this toolkit is going to work. This toolkit is safe, kind, effective, natural, cooperative, and universal. So that was kind of what Zoopharmacology opened up. And I was like, it's there. It's there. We don't need to be the super smart one and come up with the whole science. And I don't have to spend thousands of years in a laboratory. I just need to go ask the animals, and let them show me what it is, and then rely on the beautiful scientists who are doing the work to find out all the details of that. And then my brain can just go and soak up all that information. And then I'll translate that into hey, here's 4 things that you should know, and give it to you. So along the way, we're taking this much information and going down and down and down and down and down and here until we've got like, okay, now we can make a real difference for our pets.
That's it's so brilliant how even when they're stuck in, I'm going to talk about a horse, but even if they're stuck in a stall or they're out in a paddock, it's like when you said I go out and I watch them. I remember
Mm-hmm.
when I came to the UK, I was doing the British Homeopathic Veterinary Surgeons, and it was so much fun. I did an internship with Mark Elliott in the UK. And we went to see this horse, and it looked like it had been burnt. Like this horse was like everyone had been trying everything. It's had these skin hives, and it was a mess. And we went out, and he took the case, and I was standing there because I was an intern and just watching him and stuff. And we were watching him, and he was really looking at this horse, and it was outside. And it was walking around, and about, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour into it, he said, that horse really looks like he's searching underneath the fence for that particular purple flower.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yeah, if you look at the paddock, it's reaching its face as far as it can, not to eat the grass, but to eat these little purple flowers. So he took these purple flowers, and he actually muscle tested this horse with
Mm-hmm.
these purple flowers, and then he made a homeopathic remedy out of it and gave it to the horse. And the first time, the horse was completely cured from whatever was going on. And they would never have known. Like it's like, and if he hadn't had that observation, which I always talk to people about, like watch your pets, watch what they're doing, understand them, write it down, do diaries, make a connection of what they're asking, because that's the only way they can ask is
Mm-hmm.
by doing something, right? So it's phenomenal. Like even when they just don't have the opportunity, right? They don't have the opportunity when they're in a stall, and unable to show us what they need, or not even show us what they need, get what they need, ingest what.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just so fascinating.
This is one of the things that I'm helping to bring into zoos, because again, like we were saying before, the wild animal, like a zoo animal, is not domestic. Let's just start with that. But they're also not fully wild, because most zoo animals now have grown up in captivity. They've been born into a breeding program and conservation, this, that, and the other. They were born in, they weren't yoinked out of nature. So they sit in this kind of mid position of um, not really being wild, but definitely not being domesticated. And so the
Yeah.
way that we look after them is different again to what we would do for an animal in a wild, sort of like a safari park setting, or versus anyway. So what they would normally do when they're feeling poorly is to go and investigate and get what it is they need. They would go through their territory and hunt for the medicine that they know will fix them. And so often we see a lot of seeking behavior or attempts to leave the enclosure, like burying, like digging down or trying to jump, right? Because they're like, I'm so driven by the pain that I'm in or the condition that I have or whatever, and I want to go and find the purple flower, and I can't. And so for us to be able to come in and say, listen, I've got, look at, I mean, that's one of my kits there. I've got 2 more down here. Like, I have these kits where I can take them and say, all right, let me just offer. I had no idea what you might be like, because a lot of these symptoms are invisible. They're cryptic. Animals will hide that they've got all this problem. Like, it's not safe to be the weak one, right? That's how you get picked off and eaten. So they hide all this stuff. And so by going in and saying, hey, look, I've got all these things here I want to offer you. What do you want to sniff at? What do you want to investigate? What do you want to roll in or rub on or whatever? And by me offering, they've got the first chance to receive what it is that they've been seeking all this time. And by observing which ones they choose, what therapy did you choose? What have you selected here? It tells me, oh my gosh, pain. We've got pain here. So let's take a thermography image or something like that. So thermography is a photograph that you can take that looks at the heat signature across. You've seen these pictures where there's kind of red and blue and whatever, right? It'll tell you where is there inflammation in the body with a photograph, right? So we're not doing anything invasive to the animal. We're doing that compassionate, cooperative thing again. And I can see, oh my gosh, there's a huge hotspot of like inflammation in X part of the body, which we would never have known if I hadn't have come in and let them select the thing that told me that they're in pain. So it can be used diagnostically, right, as well as enriching, right? So we talked before about scattering herbs around the place, right, for your animals to engage with and enjoy and have that mental stimulation and that healing benefit of whatever, right? But that can be on a preventative and engagement side. It can also be diagnostic, which is so powerful because no one's going around every day doing a full, like health panel on every animal. Like, let me take your blood and your temperature and your all the, right? We don't do that. And for good reason, but that means we miss a lot of stuff. We miss it because they hide it. And especially with pets, they hide as well because they're like, I don't want to upset you. I don't want you to, like, they read our emotions. They know the things, they smell all that stuff. So there's this two-way dynamic, right? And have you ever kept a secret from someone because you thought, oh, it's just going to upset them. I don't want to say that. They're going to worry. And so they're doing the same thing. So we need to take that kind of step of like, okay, let me find out. So maybe the answer to your question before is like, what's the most like mind-shattering thing with is like, we can use this. They can tell us their secrets in this moment, right? Truthfully, because they don't lie. There's no placebo effect and all that kind of thing. It's like, I want this because I want it, because I'm in pain, because this aches, or my temperature's too high, or whatever. And then we can verify that, and we can go, okay, well, let's take that photograph, let's do that thermometer, let's do a blood test, and we come back and go, oh my gosh, bang on, it's correct, right? But we totally would have missed it if we didn't ask them the question using the toolkit.
Amazing painting. I'm gonna
Awesome.
paraphrase here Laureen, that is saying, I love your passion and energy. So you have a lot of fans here today. And we could stay here like hearing you talking about this all night long, but I know it's late for us, and I know it's especially late for you because Penny said she's in the UK. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the forever young membership, the VIP membership, and then after you tell us a little bit more about it, we can make the draw. Because I have here, I can share the screen and everyone will see that I'm not like trying to favor anyone.
Trying to catch it, trying to do it for yourself so you win them all.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. So here's the thing, like, people, I feel like I have so much to share, right? And people come to me and ask all the time, but there's only one of me. And like Juliana said at the start, there really is only one of me. Like, there's not like there's a whole fleet of longevity zoologists. I can't even find another one anywhere in the world. If anyone ever finds someone who is, please let me know, right? But so there's only enough of me to go around to so many people. So I was like, you know, I need to create something that will impart this information, right, to many more people than I can have a call or a consultation or an appointment or whatever with. So this is where membership came up. And the other thing that I kept hearing over and over again, hundreds and hundreds of like calls with people, and they would tell me the same things. There's no one in my area who I trust. I mean, we already know there's a vet crisis. There's a dearth of vets. They're retiring. It doesn't matter what the story. I mean, it does matter, but I'm just saying, like, you can't get the access that you need. Like, there's a wait list. You can't get on. You need an emergency. You can't get the appointment. They're only a conventional one. They don't understand you. You've been scolded or criticized or what you like. So you just haven't found your person, right? And this is really a big problem internationally. So that was one thing I kept hearing. The other was no one's listening. I get an appointment. I've got 10 minutes. And we're in out and out the door, and there's 100 quid on the table kind of thing. It's like, you know, it doesn't feel like that service where your voice matters and your story is important. And so, you know, often in my calls, we do 1 hour consultations. And so we really dive in deep and we really get to be friends as well by the end of it, because, you know, it's relational. It's that family. I mean, I'm not, to be real, I'm not a doctor or whatever, but I'm offering that kind of thing of the family doctor who's known you since you were born, like probably helped deliver you. And so I see these animals for a long period of time. So all of that is to say that there was this inability for me to provide to everybody without creating something else. So membership is what I was like, let me create something that is going to make it accessible for everyone to have voice, that if you choose to trust me, right? I'm just going to pretend for 1 second that you could do kind of like me and you do think I kind of know what I'm talking about. So to have access to someone who has a trusted voice, who knows what they're talking about, who can give you those answers, who will listen, who will adapt the membership, the content, the material to what you say. So here's the thing. If you want to jump in and become part of, and it's Forever Young, because I thought that was kind of cute, but then as a founding member, like okay, we can talk about some of the details, but let me just jump to this bit. If you join as a founding member, there's a bunch of additional privileges that you get because you've taken a step of faith in me and said, yeah, I'm going to be with you from the beginning. You get voting rights. Okay, so voting rights means everyone's going to get to have a say. Like, I would like to see some more of this. I'm curious about that. Can you help me with this? And I respond to you. I didn't go, here's a thing and I want you to like it. It's how can I help you with the gap that exists in your life, which is that trusted person, someone who listens, who's going to support what you're saying and actually give you the best of the best in terms of mind, body, and health and happiness for the animals, like that whole 360 approach. Like you've just heard my background and whatever else, right? So it's I haven't seen anything else there, and people keep telling me they're looking for it. So I was like, okay, let me do that and make it for you. Let you be in the driver's seat and tell me. So everybody will get the chance to say, hey, I'd like to see this and that and the other, but only the founders get to vote. So then I put the list together and then you say, I actually, that one, we all want this one. And then I go make that for you. I create it for you. I teach on it. I do a video on it, whatever it is. And that then becomes the resource for you. So membership is really, as far as I can tell, okay, because again, I can't find these other people who might be doing the same thing as me. But as far as I can tell, the world's first longevity academy for pets, okay, and a private club where you're really in the driver's seat. And a private club meaning that it feels like a country club. You're going to feel like you belong, that you are valued in here, okay? So there are core assets, there are bonus resources, and then there are founder privileges. If you join up as a founder, then you get all of everything. So let me very briefly tell you that. Each month there will be a new video, a new resource, and a Q&A opportunity so that you have the education, you have the practical, and you have the support. And every month another one goes in, another one goes in, and each one of those like goes in. So your library of assets is expanding all the time. Okay, and you dictate what it is that I create for you on those things. Okay, that's your core membership stuff. Bonuses, right? Some of you will know me for a little while and you'll remember that I was one half of Pet and Parent Longevity, where we did loads of summit interviews with experts. We ran workshops, we did teachings, the whole shebang. It was amazing. We've got archive upon archive video that is your bonus. Well, one of your bonuses is the entire portfolio of pet and parent longevity learning resources. There's over 80 hours worth of stuff that you can dig into and learn. And this is, again, the same 7 pillars of animal longevity I touched on earlier. It applies to the human and to the pet, and where it's different, we tell you how and why. All of that is there as a massive cushion of information to go in. There is no requirement, right? This is not a course. This is not an assessment. There's no pressure on you. You don't have to digest all this stuff. It is there as a resource library if you want that, okay? Then every month there are prizes, because we love prizes, right? So every month members have the opportunity to win a consultation with me, because I know sometimes you want to go deep, right? You have the chance to win a pet health audit, right? So you can assess, where's my pet now and where could we go? And every month there's a chance to win one of my longevity books. Okay, so every month there's 3 prizes that go into this as well. And then your privileges as a founding member, you are grandfathered with your price. It will never go up. You will stay that forever and ever. Like if you decide to stay with me, we're good, right? You also, as I said, get those voting rights. Okay. You also have the opportunity to, if you bring 2 friends, if you say, hey, join club with me, this is going to be amazing. First world, pet longevity club that there ever was. Learn this stuff. Like you bring 2 friends, yours is free. Okay. So we're trying to get the message out. And one of the best ways to get the message out is for you to tell your friends, and then we can help more animals, because then they're going to talk at the dog park and they're going to tell somebody else, and then the message, right? So it allows you to do that. And I reward you if you do that. So membership is all of these things. There's no pressure. It's designed for you. And you have, I guess, the chance tonight to jump in. Now, membership is for a year. I created it because you can't learn it all in 5 minutes. If you just had it from, I mean, you could, but what are you going to do with it in a month, right? Longevity lifestyles take time to grow. So this is a year-long membership, and we take you through, and you can dip in and out and as you want. $111 gives you access for the entire year, right? That's like $9.50 a month, right? For 80 plus hours of stuff, plus you in the driver's seat, plus all the prizes and everything else, right? It's a pretty good, when I calculated out the thing, it was something like $15,000 worth of value for the year. $111 will give you the whole thing. And as I said, you're grandfathered in. So it is literally brand new. It will go live in a couple of weeks' time. Everything is being downloaded into the portal, and it takes a minute for that to happen. But doors are open now, and 3 people tonight are going to be winners and have a free.
It's good that
Awesome.
you already mentioned that it's not open yet, because some people were asking. So it's amazing. And do you have, like you mentioned, a couple weeks, but do you have like a launch date already or no?
We are opening for you guys. For you guys, like you will be the very first people.
The 3 lucky one.
I have a link which I didn't have to hand because I sent it to you, Mariana. But
yeah, no, I'm sharing. Yeah, I'm sharing the link already. Okay.
Okay, cool. So that is there. So you can membership, the invitation to join. Let me put it this way: the invitation to join is exclusively. Okay, let me be real, because this is, as I said, this is founders members, and I take it very seriously that you're supporting me and I'm supporting you. We're in relationship. We're doing this together. Okay, this is not for the general public. This is for my people. This is for the people who are already in my community, who are already a friend of family, kind of Dr. Zoolittle, already on my email list, who already know me, whatever. You guys, if you are all going to get your invitation tomorrow, right? The people who already know me, tomorrow you get your invitation. New people who don't know me yet, but here tonight, you are the only people outside of my community who are invited into this, because I really, really mean it when I say that it's 2-way. And that means I need to have people who I know are invested, people who I know who care, people who I know have the heart for this, right? And so I know Julianne, right, and her heart, we talked about how like kindred we are. So I know 100% that if you're her person, you're my person. So you guys are also welcome as founding members. Now, down the line, the invitation will go out to the wider public, right? They will not be founder members. No, founder members will never be offered again, ever. It is only for my people who I know have the heart, right? Who have already invested in their learning, in their compassion for animals, who, right? You guys are the ones who are going to lead the charge, and your input and insight and questions is going to help a whole group of other people who don't have it. Okay, so you're so valuable to me in spreading the message, but that's why I wanted to just layer up and layer up and layer up and give you the toolkit to have the education side, because I know you guys are nerds and want to learn too. Every time I like, you go like, tell me another video, give me more teaching, right? You want that education, but I also know you need the practical, because it's like, okay, my head's just exploded. Now what do I do? What's the step? What are the 3 steps I need to take home? And so I create that resource for you. That's your guide that goes in every month, right? Here are the dot points that you need to know to refresh your memory or whatever. Here are the products that I recommend, that I've used, that I've road tested, that I've bought for my pets, right? That I use on myself, right? Who I've spoken to the CEO of the company and said, tell me what's in your product. Talk me through how you designed it. Like, I've done a lot. I didn't just go, oh, what's on Amazon? Let me just chuck that in there. No, this is really curated heavily. And so that if you say, I tell you what, I've got dental problems with my pets and I really need to fix that, right? There will be the dental guide in there for you, right? And then you can, that whatever month dental happens, you know, there's a couple of things I got planned already, because I'm not getting your feedback yet, right? And as soon as we get your feedback, then we get, but I already know what your problems are, because I've been speaking with a lot of you for a long time. Dental was a thing, I've made dental one. Dental will be going in there. So if you need to solve those things, there's the guide that tells you what you need to know. And it's like, you know, 10 pages. It's not an encyclopedia that's going to blow your head off, right? It's what you need to know, not the entire genre of this. So I missed that, sorry.
Something that's tangible.
Right.
Yeah, which is really important. And it's also, I just wanted to mention, when you join things that are like foundational, it's a different experience. It's a very different experience. So how are we doing this? How are we
Okay.
doing that?
I'm
Doing
sharing my screen now. There is this app. Let's hope. Let's see if my internet will cooperate with us, because like, can everyone see this, the website
I
and
can
this
always,
wheel?
oh yeah,
There it
yeah.
is.
Okay, so don't mind, please, about the ads here, because this is a free thing. So, okay, here you can see all the names of everyone who attended today's webinar. So some people already left, but they are still here in this list. So I'm gonna start turning the wheel, and then let's see the lucky person first name.
Is it turning?
Congratulations, Angela.
Yeah. So the second person, let's see. This is
I think
fun.
it is moving, Julie. It's just a bit slow. Maybe
Oh
in the
yeah,
van.
it's just, yeah, it's like, what's it doing? I can't tell what it's doing.
I thought it was going to go really fast and kind of blur the colors.
Rose O'Brien.
Rose.
Yay,
Brian.
congrats, Rose. And the last one, the last lucky one. Roxanne.
Ryan.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Ladies, welcome. I hope that's I hope you're pleased to be a winner.
Oh,
You're
they
not.
are. They're putting in the chat that they're
Yes,
really.
thank you.
And then
Some
there's
people.
also people in the chat that are joining, that have already joined. They're joined on your website already.
Oh, amazing. You guys are
Yeah.
awesome.
So
Yeah,
good.
so me and Jenny, we will be contacting you guys. So I took a screenshot of from all the names here, and we also have the recording. So don't be worried. Don't worry. I have all your emails, so we'll be in touch. Stay tuned. And I guess that's it, guys, because it's getting very, very late. So I think I'm wrapping this up. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
so that was so awesome. Thank you so much, Penny.
Thank you for the chance. I mean, I feel like I did all of the talking and no one else got to say anything. But for
Good.
people who are like, oh my gosh, tell me more about ecotherapy, or I didn't catch all of those things, or what else does that mean? And, I mean, I had some notes here to take us through, like, let's talk about the examples of how the 5 spheres of nature can protect against cancer. Because, I mean, let's make this practical. It's all very nice to go and look at nature and go, oh, I'm getting healed. But, like, what is it? Like, if you need to solve a problem. So just so you know, there is an ecotherapy guide that is going into membership. So it's going into your library because this is something that almost nobody talks about. I haven't heard anyone in the kind of the wellness, holistic health space talk about this. I've only heard it come out of the mouths of some zoologists, and you guys are probably not chatting to them to hear this, right? So that is one of your, like, I already pre-made it for you, guide. So that's going to unpack that from the point of view of cancer specifically, because again, I want to make this useful to you. So it talks about what are those 5 spheres, how do they work, what does that include, how can you access that, what are my favorite tools, because there are some devices in there and some supplements in there that can provide what nature, right, if you can't get that access. So all of that's in that guide, and that will be in membership.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Cool.
much. Yes, and guys, I know that we have some questions too here in the Q&A. And I wanted to say sorry for the questions that we couldn't answer today. We try to focus on answering questions more related to the topic. But if you still want your question answered, please send them to our. You can join our community on Facebook, the Adorbis Collective, and you can ask your question there. Some of our team members will be there helping answering your questions, and all the community also. They are very helpful. They can help you there too. Again, I want to thank everyone who joined us today, and of course you, Julie and Penny. Thank you so much for your valuable time. And for the 3 lucky attendees that won the subscription for the VIP membership, we will contact you, as I said before. So stay tuned. And I wish you all a great night. And remember to subscribe to our newsletter. You can sign up on our website to get all the information about the Adorbis, our promos, new blogs, postings, and future Ask Julie Anything sessions. Thanks. That's it, guys.
Yay, thank you
Yay,
so much.
goodbye. Have a great night. Stay
Bye. I'll
safe.
see you
Thank
soon,
you.
Penny. Okay.
Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye.